Choosing an apartment can be challenging. It raises many questions, like what neighborhood to select, what to bring in, budget, storage space, or what do I like? What if on top of that, you had a space constraint? How to choose a small apartment? In this series, we will explore tips for small apartments. This is episode 1. My first tip is to find a neighborhood you like. Depending on the type of life you want to live in your new space, you can decide on a neighborhood, whether it's calm, active, close to many shops, or to nature. Furthermore, I find that walking around the neighborhood you've chosen will help you locate grocery stores and know whether or not you are comfortable there. Plus, if you walk around that neighborhood, you will have a pretty good idea of the type of space you are thinking of investing. Before moving into my current space, I remember visiting a few apartments that were definitely not to my taste. And that is what is inspiring tip number 2. Making a list of your non-negotiable will ensure that you will know very early on whether or not to visit the space or to move in. On my list, I had very practical points like making sure that the apartment was up to legal norms, that there was a heater, that the appliances were working, but also some that were very specific to me, like making sure that the apartment had enough exposition to the sunshine, or that the walls were white. When looking for an apartment, and in my case, a small apartment, I find that recording the visit is really helpful. That's how I was able to remember which space I visited and what it looked like. I also liked adding a note or sometimes a sentence just so I would remember how it felt to be in that space. Although it wasn't always easy to do so, I'm happy I did, because upon visiting the apartment I am in right now, I had a very clear idea of what I wanted the apartment to look like. So when I ended up moving in, it didn't take me too long to put everything in its place. Decluttering isn't something reserved to before you move in, but I find that using this process avoids bringing in things you will not use in your apartment. Looking at everything I owned and making a list of what I use and what I want to give away, sell, or store was tremendously helpful. It's also nice to move into a space knowing that you're surrounded with everything that has a meaning and intention. If you were lucky enough to be able to spend some time in your future apartment before moving in, I definitely recommend it. Moving in somewhere can feel intimidating and scary sometimes, but if you have a bit of familiarity with that space already, it will help you when it's time for you to go in for good. Storage is absolutely paramount. This is something to pay attention to while you are visiting the space and even after. Ask yourself if you have a lot of things that you need to put away, and if you are moving into a small apartment, if there is storage in the space, don't hesitate to take pictures of them and even think of how you can divide everything for more efficiency. If there isn't any storage, then start thinking of what you can use to optimize your space, like storage vacuum bags, boxes, or beds with drawers. I think this is my favorite question and potentially my favorite tip. Is there enough light? Usually, upon visiting a space, you will have the answer to your question pretty easily and quickly. Do consider asking yourself whether or not there is enough light and how important it is for you. Is the small apartment you are investing fitting your purpose? Ask yourself, what is this space for? That will help you select what apartment is right for you. And it is very helpful for decorating and furniture. If you spend a lot of time in that space, then you want to make sure you can make it cozy and adapt it to staying in a lot. On the contrary, maybe it's just a space to sleep, and therefore you will want to make sure that the bed and the bedroom are the most important spaces in your apartment. The reason why I suggested earlier recording or spending time in the space is because it will be much easier to get ideas about how to organize your space depending on the layout. If you have a bedroom, you can start thinking of how you are going to furnish it. Last, but definitely not least, I encourage you to trust yourself. As big of a deal as it might feel to choose a space to live in, you got this. Trust that you'll end up exactly where you're supposed to be. and that the space you chose will work for you. Part of trusting yourself is also being bold enough to follow your intuition and decide on a space or location people might find odd or even frown upon. Yet, if it feels right for you, then that's all that really matters.